peace talks happen, there are extraordinary security precautions already in place in Pakistan. The Serena Hotel, that luxury hotel in Islamabad, has already been cleared out of all customers and all guests. Thousands of armed forces are surrounding the hotel, providing what the foreign minister of Pakistan says is, quote, foolproof security. Vice President Vance is scheduled to arrive there tomorrow. Joining us now is John Bolton, former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. He also served as national security advisor in Trump's first term. Ambassador, great to have you back. So Iran's parliament speaker just said on X that Iran would not participate in the talks under threat and accused President Trump of trying to force Iran to surrender. I think that's exactly what President Trump is trying to do. So are these peace talks even going to happen?
Well, I think both teams will show up in Islamabad. The Iranians obviously have the easier call. They're going to wait to have confirmation that Vance is on an airplane. They have a much shorter flight, so they can make the last call whether they'll show up or not. As I understand the state of play, which of course can change in a heartbeat, the ceasefire now only extends until Wednesday. So whenever Vance leaves and then gets to Islamabad, there's a relatively limited amount of time to talk. When they talked for 21 hours in the first go-round of this, they obviously didn't reach agreement. I think the Iranians don't want to be in a position where people can point the finger at them and say they are the proximate cause of the talks breaking down by not showing up. But whether they're going to negotiate anything when they get there is a different story. And whether they'll commit, whatever they commit to, the odds of them following through on it, I think, are close to zero.
Yeah, as we can only just look at the history of what they've promised to do and then reneged or cheated on. You said, I was really interested to see this. You said the Iranians, quote, can smell the panic in the White House. They can see Trump wants out, and it gives Iran enormous leverage. I should note, by the way, that the president posted today that he read, quote, all the fake news saying I'm under pressure to make a deal. This is not true. That last part was in all caps. What do you make of what Trump is saying and how Iran is reading it?
Look, he wants out of this war for domestic American political reasons. He's worried about the price of gasoline at the pump. He's worried about the impact of all of this on the November elections. So he'd love to find a way out. But he also knows if he makes a deal that looks like the Obama deal in many respects, if it looks like he's cutting and running, if it looks like he's trying to declare victory when manifestly there is no victory, that will hurt him politically, I think, even worse. So he's responsible in part for his own dilemma, and he doesn't know what the answer is going to be. So he's playing for time. But I think he faces a real problem tomorrow. If he extends the ceasefire again, that will confirm that all he really wants is a deal. So from Iran's point of view, all they have to do is keep talking, stay awake for 21, 24, 27 hours, whatever it takes, get to that ceasefire deadline, and then see what Trump does.
President Trump is back to making dire threats today. He clearly believes that he can bully Iran into doing what he wants it to do. You know, this comes a day after the Wall Street Journal reported that when Trump posted on Easter that he would completely destroy Iran's civilization and to, quote, open the strait, you crazy bastards, praise be to Allah, that he wanted to seem as unstable and as insulting as possible. It's quite a strategy.
Well, this so-called man-mad strategy may depict Trump accurately, but it's not what the strategy was originally based on when Henry Kissinger performed the magic for Richard Nixon with respect to China, because the point of Nixon's approach was to say, you know, he's such an anti-communist. He so firmly believes in that approach that he'll do anything to stop China. And the Chinese could have believed it because they believed Nixon was an anti-communist. Trump isn't making that argument. He's just trying to say, I'm crazy. And they may be convinced, but they may also take a look at his blustering and boasting and braggadocio over the years and conclude there's no lead in his pencil.
That he doesn't mean it and won't follow through. I don't know. We will see what happens. If you had to bet, you think there will be talks and they'll just try and talk and talk and talk until he extends the ceasefire?
Right, that's the test. The pressure's now on Trump. The way he's structured this, more pressure on him at this point than on the Iranians.
Because of that ceasefire deadline. Okay. Ambassador John Bolton, always great to talk to you. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.